Hi again, good afternoon, and hello from wherever you are. Thank you for coming on the live today. As you know, we have been creating mental health awareness in the past few weeks, and today we have a pleasure of having Alfred Madhu on board just to give us a brief and explanation in the correlation in financial planning and stress management. And whenever we talk about financial planning, it makes life more easier, it makes life more efficient. So I'll let him explain to us, I will let him teach us, and most of the time I personally will be listening as he explains, as he tries to help us understand more on how to deal with our financial planning and how to reduce our stress. And when you financial plan, in return we do stress management skill. So Alfred, I'm ready
Thank you,
to
Varin.
listen, ready to learn. So you can take
Thank,
off.
thank you so much, Varin, and I hope you guys can hear me so clearly. And good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone, wherever you're streaming from. I'm extremely delighted to be in your midst this afternoon. Alfred Matthew is my name, as I've been introduced by our host, Varin, this afternoon. I'm a financial doctor. I speak to people about financial matters. I'm here to be speaking to you guys on finance and stress and how the two are correlated and how we can manage and minimize stresses that are linked to financial mismanagement. As a financial advisor, I help people to walk through the financial journey, understanding who they are from a financial planning perspective. From a financial planning perspective, I need to get everyone to understand exactly what you need to do at what stage of your life so that the potential negative implication of financial mismanagement wouldn't come your way. I'll start off by first of all telling you a story about exactly what I do and how I do it. And then thereafter, I will walk you through how what I do it affects the financial stresses and how the two can actually be married together for better lives in the future. Financial planning is the general understanding of your financial status and using that information to make informed decisions, effective decisions that will help you secure your today and help you secure your tomorrow. All of us, regardless of what you do in life, regardless of your marital status, regardless of your career, I know at some point or the other we have a tendency to misuse our cash. In fact, in general, I would say that almost everyone misuses some cash. The difference is the amount. We've got financial goals clustered into short-term, medium, and long-term goals. When I think about the short-term goals, I'm looking at anything of emergency nature that may present a very short turnaround time within which to address their situation. It is recommended that you build an emergency fund. I've seen lots of people getting very stressed, trying to take loans against their motor vehicles, trying to take loans against some of their assets like land, trying to take loans against their houses, and at times the turnaround time of getting to access that money is not good enough. So you get even more stressed trying to look for options. For you to be able to build a sizable emergency fund, it's recommended that 5% of your income in whatever that you do, let it be directed towards an emergency fund and with a threshold of 3 to 6 times of your monthly financial requirements. In the medium term space, all of us at the age of 50 plus minus 5 years, there are some contractual obligations that come our way. One of the obligations could be educating children if you have a family. Again, planning becomes very, very, very important. You know, when a child is born, you got approximately 17, 18 years to prepare for the education, especially the tertiary education. But what I see among many of the people that I speak to, a child is born and you continue the same lifestyle that you had before the child was born, and you don't even realize that the child is growing or growing by the day. And then time will come when the child will be going to school. Most of the parents are not even prepared. The child is going to high school. The child is not even at all prepared. Time comes for even going to university. The child is not, the parents are not even prepared. And you ask yourself, what happened? It's all a question of planning. Because planning itself will help you address the needs before you get there. And you'll be able to align on your finances to be able to address such needs when the time comes. Think about those that would have a desire to own houses or to build a house. No one loves to be a tenant. It is not very pleasant to be a tenant. But the fact that some people are only means that concerted effort has got to be made to help you put funds together to either build or buy. That is especially if you have no chances of inheriting one from your folks. So again, the planning aspect comes in. You can see now the link between that goal of buying or building a house and what you're doing with your money every day. The house would require, buying or building a house would require a lump sum. But a lot of people, from their staggered incomes, they don't realize that for you to have a lump sum, you need on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly basis, weekly basis, yearly basis, to start putting funds aside to accumulate that towards the particular agenda of buying or building a house. There's some people who have interest in business and they want to start a business one day. Again, the planning aspect comes in. First of all, you got to study the market. You got to understand what is that business. You got to look at the capital requirements. You got to look at the markets. And then, of course, the issue of putting funds aside to help you achieve that agenda becomes also critical. How about having a holiday? I see lots of people that go on holiday based on money that is borrowed. When you take your family on a holiday on a credit and the bills are paid on a credit card, it means that most likely you're ill-prepared for such expenses. But there has always been competition of some sort, either for lifestyle purposes, that only because you found your next door neighbor has taken his children to Dubai or has taken the children to Zanzibar, you also want to have an immediate plan on an international holiday that you never planned for. For you to be able to meet your contractual obligations, a 10 to 50% of your income would ideally be recommended to be directed to a contractual investment program. I'll be talking about that later. How about the long term? How many people are preparing for retirement? And here I'm looking at 60 years plus minus 5 years. A lot of us do not have the physical energy to be able to do things that we do today on a daily basis. So as you slow down, what financial cushion will be able to support you? A lot of people run out of liquidity. You are too solid at the expense of cash. You are too solid at the expense of liquidity. That becomes a stress in itself. Other people have not adequately put funds aside for securing their retirement. When the time comes, within a year, within 2 years, you've depleted all that you had put together over the few years. And then from there, you start depending on others. There are a lot more people that are not doing succession planning. Succession planning here, we're looking at how is your estate going to legitimately be shared among the people that you wanted to inherit you. You need to do a succession plan. You need to ensure that when you are in good health and of sound mind, with the support or assistance of your legal expert, your lawyer maybe, you do a succession plan that will help create some settlement for your old age. Again, for people to achieve your long-term agenda, especially on retirement investment, 10% of your income is recommended to be directed towards the retirement agenda. When I speak this gospel, my gospel is founded on a principle of 50-25-25 rule. And what this rule is all about, 50% of the income that you make should help you meet your needs or the needs of your family. 25% is for taking care of the ones. But the remaining 25% is not for spending today. That is the amount that is supposed to be pushed into dealing with your long-term needs, short-term needs, medium-term needs. So that is not money for spending. It is money for building a financial cushion. Whether the cushion is of an emergency nature, whether the cushion is for contractual needs, whether the cushion is for medium-term requirements, whether the cushion is for your old age. I think putting that 25% aside of your income on a regular basis will help you create that certainty, will help you create that comfort. All of us are on this particular journey, and we call it the human life cycle. There are things you ought to have done when you are in the foundation phase. There are things that your parents ought to have done for you to be able to create a good foundation when you are young. But as the journey progressed, you found yourself in the young adult stage, where most of the people get into employment, most are trying to settle, some people get married, some people are trying to pursue additional courses so that you can become more marketable in the employment world. I mean, and the journey now from that point moves very fast. It is the point at which you take responsibility of your cash flow and your cash management. Let me tell you what, in the life planning phase, the most disastrous thing that I see with people is over focusing on wants rather than needs, and not even creating cushion for old age. You go through the phase of 25 years to 49 so fast. By the time you know, you are actually sinking. A lot of people have sunk in this level in debt. A lot of people have even had their marriages coming to an end. A lot of people have been auctioned. A lot of people have lost their jobs because of underperformance. A lot of people have gone into liabilities that they are not able to manage. But when you look at why people get into this kind of situations, at times it's because of lifestyle. It's not a must that you must put yourself in a particular lifestyle that you cannot afford, a lifestyle that your income is not able to afford. Even in an environment where you are spending more than 75% of your income, then you can be sure you're headed to failure. Because as I've recommended on the first slide, remember, on the previous slide, remember I've talked about the 50-25-25 rule. So if you find yourself in an environment where you're spending more than 75%, you can be sure that failure is going to be your friend. You can be sure that failure is not very far from where you are. And this, again, will have its own implication on the stress levels. If you look at why some of the marriages are breaking, stresses that have actually been characterized by financial mismanagement is they are very high. You see, people are not even able to deliver on the targets that they have been given in the places of work. At times, why they are in that situation is because of financial mismanagement. There are others who have actually been sent away. Your contract has been terminated. You are underperforming. You're not meeting the expectation of the employer. Look at the children. Some of the children have actually been terrified by the relationship between the mother and father, and especially in connection with money. Let's go to the next phase, retirement. I've talked about it. A lot of people think that they're not going to retire. They think that retirement age is too far. Let me tell you what, if there's anything that is coming very fast in our life, it is old age. These days, there seems to be a catalyst that is bringing old age faster than it used to happen a few years back. At the age of 60, some of the people look physically healthy, but you are losing your job because you've attained an age that you need to retire. But for a lot of people, at the point you get to retirement age, you don't even have clarity of what you want to be pursuing after you retire. You find yourself in an environment where you've got too much time, but no money. Too much time, but nothing to do. And the only thing that happens in your life is just going around in circles. Some people go into drugs, some people go into alcohol, and from there they become a lake in the society. It's good in this particular stage of your life to ask yourself, when you become old, are you going to be a golfing grandfather? Are you going to be a golfing grandmother? Or are you going to be another Hydra in city? Are you going to be depending on your children? Are you going to be depending on the society? Are you going to be depending on your extended family? Kenya has become a place for WhatsApp fundraising groups. Every other day, we are being added into WhatsApps, either to fundraise for medicals or to fundraise for whatever needs in the society. But when you look at why we are in that kind of a situation, in as much as traditionally we are coming from an environment where most of our parents didn't understand money management skills, there is also a problem because even us who are now well exposed to the information, we are not doing what we need to do. And those that want to do, they are starting to do very late. Procrastination has become a monster. We plan for other things, but not investment. We plan for other things and not for medical insurance. We plan for other things, but not last expense. You want to have a decent send-off, but you're not planned for it. You've not put money aside to help your children, to help your family, to go to give you a decent send-off. How is it going to happen? So many people are depressed. There are so many cases of depression. There are so many cases of people who have lost it in life. And they look at it, it's because of financial planning. So my encouragement this evening is to everyone to start putting their best foot forward in terms of money management. I want us to look at some common financial mistakes that people make and which have a direct impact on your financial wellness and your management of the stress. Not having a budget is one of them. You need to have clarity of what comes into your bank account. You especially need to have clarity of what leaves that bank account. The only document that will help you understand what comes in and what goes out is a budget. Let us know exactly how do you want to spend the money. Yes, you've made the money. It's your hard-earned money. That's true. But how can you work so hard, sacrifice so much, and when your salary comes into your bank account, you spend it on lifestyle? There are people who are going to Kiabu Road. There are people who are going to Thika Road. And the only thing they can do at the end of the month is to entertain friends on a beer or two social lifestyle totally. You are not thinking about your tomorrow. You've made the money, yes, but you spend it in such a bad manner without even care of your tomorrow. How are you going to meet your needs when your energy levels start coming down? How are you going to be meeting your needs if there's a disruption of your health? How are you going to be meeting your needs the day you lose your job? How are you going to meet your needs the time we get into some economic crisis that at times hit our countries? We went through the time of COVID. We've gone through the time of flooding in Kenya. Now we are in the face of Gen Zs. Some people today couldn't work. How about those that are depending on their business to be able to support their families and be able to meet the various financial obligations? If you don't have a budget that helps you to put controls, timely controls on the money that is coming in and the money that is going out, and ensuring that even as you spend, you are leaving some for tomorrow. There are also misconceptions around money. The poor people think that there's nothing to manage for. The rich ones think they have everything that they need, so they don't need the financial planning and budgeting. Let's look at about the financial habits. Your money is made for you and your obligations. If you have a family, you're making money for yourself and your obligations as well as the children. How can you start lending that money? And some people are going to the extent of lending money for critical, expenses in the family. Money that was meant for school fees, how can you lend it out? Money that was meant for paying your rent, how can you lend it to a friend? Money that was supposed to pay your mortgage installment, how can you lend to a friend? People got to start realizing that these bad habits have caused more danger to our financial lives than diseases. You lend money that was meant for important obligations to the family, and the next minute the person you gave the money is not paying back, is not picking your calls, is not responding to messages, is not responding to emails, and your number is blocked. So of what good is that lending? If somebody comes your way and they want to borrow money from you, please direct them to the institutions that have the systems of lending and recovery. If you come my way, I'll only give you what I can afford to lose. Beyond that, I'll take you to my bank manager. Borrow from my bank manager, not from me. Because the bank manager, they have a system in the bank that will be able to assess your risk, your credit risk, and they also have a system that can be able to recover if you default. The other one is saving too little. You got to understand exactly the world you want to have tomorrow and save adequately to be able to meet the various obligations that you expect on your path. But a lot of people are saving too little. You want to buy a Range Rover, but you're saving for a Pro Box. You want to buy a V8, but what you're saving for cannot even be able to buy your Nist. You got to get yourself out of the box and now start thinking more deeply. For me to be able to live in the place that I always decide to have a house, how much do I need on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis to be able to sustain myself in that lifestyle? And when I retire, how much will I need in my retirement kit for me to be able to maintain my lifestyle? Lots of people are living in those living suburbs, the likes of Mudaiga, the likes of Runda, the likes of Karen, the likes of Riverside, the likes of Westlands. But upon retirement, you realize that you saved too little, that within 2 years, you're nearly depleting it. And the shock of your life, you're forced to go back to the village. Now, somebody who is used to a lifestyle of the living suburb, going back to the village, where do you start? You are already a laughing stock. Everyone is wondering what is wrong with this man. We thought he was doing so well. He drove the best cars. He looked very smart when he was working. Now he's looking a bit hopeless in the village, doing nothing. He's just coming to cause chaos there. We got to save with a target that for me to retire well, for me to be able to sustain my lifestyle, This is approximately how much I need to have put within the timeline that aligns with the retirement age. The other one is not being strategic. Lots of people have had so much money, but that money has been left in savings accounts. What is that money doing for you in a savings account? You are aging, but the money is not growing. What an irony. You leave money in a bank account, it is not appreciating, it is not earning you interest, and year down the line, it is still the same amount, if not less, because the banks also charge to keep your money. So if your money is not growing, but you yourself are growing, don't you think that is ironical? You're in an environment where you've put a lump sum in a bank. That money is not growing, but you are growing. That money is not going to meet your needs. You got to be strategic enough to move money from that environment to one where it appreciates over time. Otherwise, inflation is waiting to eat that money. If you're not very strategic, you'll be having good bank balances, but money that will never be able to meet your future goals. I want to look at the next one. Retiring without medical insurance. Right from the inception when you start working, you realize that you are a young person, the rating for medical insurance is very low at that particular juncture. So to get a good medical cover, you can be able to get it that time when you're young. Lots of people attempt to take medical insurance when they are very old. You realize that there's an age limit. At some certain stage, beyond that, insurance companies are not going to give you medical insurance. You have to be paying from your wallet. That alone has caused a lot of stress to people. I give a perfect example of this good lady friend of mine who last year, on Kiabu Road, she got suddenly ill and was taken to AR Kiabu Road. It was a newly opened facility then. When she was taken to that hospital, upon a checkup, the doctors found out that she had 3 terminal illnesses at a go. The family felt, no, we need to move this lady to another hospital for maybe, just to compare the results. The kids moved the lady to Akan Hospital. She was put in ICU, unfortunately. She stayed in that hospital for 91 days. You cannot believe the kind of bills the family is struggling up to date to clear. 37 million shillings. Without good medical insurance, you realize that when such a medical disruption comes your way, you will set off your house, you will set off your car, you will get your children setting off their houses and cars, you will take loans, and that still is not going to be enough to be able to meet the obligation. Take a good medical insurance because old age is coming. In fact, as you get older, the need for medical support increases. But for a lot of people, they think that they're not going to need the medical insurance. The premium rating for somebody that is old and aged is very high. You could get 10 million shillings cover when you are below 60 at a rate of about 120 per year, 120,000 shillings per year. But immediately you hit 61, the same 10 million shillings cover will start costing you 250,000. And that is per year. When you look at that, such numbers, they translate to quite some sizable amount every month. Now, for somebody that is not working, it becomes part of the stress. I want to look at the next point, not having a succession plan. And this is the problem of a lot of us. We do not want to put our houses in order. You are born one day, there'll also be a day for dying. That is a fact. We'll die one day. In fact, to be precise, there are guys that are dying this evening. There are others that are dying tomorrow morning. There are those that are dying next week. There are those that are dying over the weekend. There are those that are dying next month. Death continues. We've never had shortage of deaths in Kenya. And even in the world, people are always dying. The only thing we have to realize is that it can be me, it can be you. None of us knows the day. Why don't you put your financial house in order? Who are my children? Write them down. Who is my spouse? Write that down. And then be able to make some instructions that are acceptable legally. Sit with your lawyer. Let the lawyer understand what are your assets, what are your liabilities. Can you then make a legally acceptable document that comprises of the decisions that you want around the asset and the liabilities? That's your succession document. Call it a will, maybe. When you're not there, people don't have to fight. I see so many of the parents that are so depressed because their spouses died and the children that were left with have already started giving them problems. You imagine a perfect case of a man has died, has left an estate, has a wife. And then the children start telling them, the parent or the mother, the remaining parent, can you divide this estate? We want our share. Our dad has left so much. We want our share. If you are not willing to make such decisions at that particular point, you're not willing to do the succession at that particular point, you're not willing to share, then it becomes a problem. Some parents have actually been killed. Others have been maimed. And when you look at the succession issues and the succession wars, some people have been in court the last 30 years. Others have been in court the last 10 years. You look at the legal bills, the bills for the legal services that you've been offered by your lawyer. They are only causing depression. You are in court every week. You are in court every month. Don't you see depression coming with that? Don't you see psychological instability coming with that? Put your house in order. Let the world know your assets. Let the world know your liabilities. Sit down and be guided of what you need to do so that when you're not there, your people don't have to fight. I'll talk about the next one. It's about physical exercises. When you think about finances, you must also create time to exercise, to give yourself physical wellness. Because when you're physically fit, even some of the possible stresses that could come your way, they'll be eradicated. Some people just want to sit in offices, eat and work. And that also becomes a catalyst for some of the medical conditions. When you wake up one day and your doctors tell you that you seem to be having blood pressure problem, you seem to be having cholesterol problem, you seem to be overweight, you seem to be having kidney problems, you seem to be having a heart problem, immediately that becomes a catalyst for stress. Stress. You're waking up to take medication every day. You're waking up to drugs every day. And maybe the catalyst of all this was the fact that you're not doing physical exercises. There is need for all of us to go to the field and exercise our bodies. Whether you do that through swimming, whether you do that through jogging, whether you go to the gym, whatever physical exercise that can make you physically well, please do it. I'll talk about the next point, inconsistent or no savings. We are in a world that believes in spending more than saving. Some people believe that money is made for spending. And the moment they start spending, they want to spend the last shilling. They never give savings or investments in a room. The moment you get yourself, as I said earlier, spending more than 75% of your income, and you're especially spending on wants, you're especially spending on lifestyle, you can be sure that you're headed down. If you're not putting some of your money into a reserve, into future reserves, into a safety net, you can be sure that a small financial disruption will bring you down. Let's talk about the next one, debt management. And we've got a problem with our country. All the way from up down, people are not able to manage debt. I come across many situations where somebody is borrowing without really a goal that you want to meet with that money. You borrowing for the sake of borrowing. You borrow because a bank relationship person came to your organization or came to your office and was selling these unsecured loans. You just end up taking the loan. Some of the people have accumulated so much debt that they cannot put their heads above the water anymore. You are literally sinking. You are borrowing from one person to pay the other. Then borrowing from the third person to pay the second. You're borrowing from the fourth person to pay the third. And there are people who are moving from one debt to the other. To make it even worse, some people now are not creditworthy anymore. The only options that are in the market for them are the Shydocks. I have witnessed with my own eyes people in the caliber of a lawyer, people in the caliber of doctors borrowing money from Shydocks at an interest rate of 17% per month. The moment you get yourself in such a scenario, that clearly you've taken a liability whose interest is in the space of 17-18% per month, you are literally doomed. You are literally doomed. You got to be careful enough to manage your debts appropriately so that you don't overstretch yourself. If you get yourself in an environment where your income is below the expenses, you can be sure you're headed down. You are making less. You're spending more than you're making. Some people even go to an extent of borrowing against money that is yet to be paid. You know your salary is coming next week, but you're already borrowing money against that anticipated salary. Let me talk to the next one. Embarrassed investment portfolio. I have witnessed an uncountable number of cases of people who did so well in terms of securing their future, but the instruments in which the investments were done are not serving their interest. When you allocate so much money into solid assets, I'm looking at such things as plots. You overinvest in plots at the expense of liquidity. You can be sure that is going to cause stress to you. So many people have reached a retirement age. They are trying to offload part of the solid assets. No one is buying. You got a plot here. You got a plot in Nakuru. You got a plot in Syokimau. You got a plot in Kitengela. You got one on Thika Road. You need cash today, and the cash is needed urgently. The only thing you are thinking about is how to borrow against those assets or to sell them. No one is buying. And when you go to lenders, they're not willing to lend money, especially now. That becomes stress to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is good to have a balanced investment equation. When you're a young person, you got a long life ahead of you. You can afford to go more solid. But as you grow towards 50 years, as I talked about the 50 years plus minus 5, can you reduce your exposure to solid and increase your liquidity? Because the space you are going, you'll be needing more cash than the titles in the house. You'll be needing more cash than the logbooks in the house. You need to direct your money in an environment where accessibility becomes a bit more guaranteed, where security of the fund becomes more guaranteed. We got enough statistics in our country of guys that have lost it because they couldn't get a buyer of some of their solid assets. You tried to sell off a plot to secure a debt. You tried to sell off a plot to pay off a hospital bill. You tried to sell off a plot to be able to pay off a mortgage or pay off a car loan, and the buyer did not come on time. You ended up losing the asset. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to have a balanced investment equation. As you get to 50 and above, can you try to push for more liquid investments than the solid ones? Because at old age, you'll be needing this cash more than you need the solid assets. The other point is financial literacy. As I said from the beginning, lots of our people don't know what to do with their money. They don't understand clearly the money management skills. They know how to make the money, but how to spend with caution, how to spend with future needs in your mind. That you know what, I don't just want to spend everything. I want to leave some for my tomorrow. This is financial literacy. People don't know which instruments have what risk profile. You realize that all over we got bonds. Some people don't understand what bonds are all about. Some people don't understand shares. Some people don't understand fixed deposits. Some people don't even understand what it means to invest in a money market. Financial literacy. We are there to be able to give you such skills, to be able to give you such information, to be able to make it easier for you to understand and be able to make better decisions. The greatest tragedy with people is that most don't have financial goals. If you don't have financial goals, you're not going to meet them. At the beginning of every year, you need to have clarity of the things that you want to pursue in the next 12 months. You need to have clarity. You also need to have clarity of where the money is coming from. You similarly need to have clarity of how much each of the goals will need. We talk about SMART goals. Goals that are specific. Goals that are measurable. Goals that are achievable. Goals that are realistic. Goals that are time-bound. Have goals. And ensure that the goals that you have can fit within the timeline that you want. If you are at the age of 50 and you have to retire at the age of 60, don't take a mortgage that runs for 15 years. Let me repeat that. If you are 50 today and you want to do a mortgage, and the bank is willing to give you mortgage up to the age of 65, but you are going to retire at the age of 60, you've got to ask yourself how you are going to finance the 5 years that you're going to be retired and yet owing on the mortgage. Mm-hmm. Your goals must fit within the timeline. Similarly, your goals must fit within the budget. If you find yourself with 10 million shillings to invest, buying a house in Karen will not be practical. Buying a house in Lunda will not be practical. Buying a house in Riverside will not be practical. Buying a house in Indonesia will not be practical. But maybe the 10 million shillings is good enough to buy a plot and build in Thika Road, somewhere in Royo. Maybe the 10 million shillings is good enough to buy a plot and build and be able to put a magnificent house. So you got to look at how much do I have at my disposal. Can that be able to meet the goals that I have? I see lots of people that are in crisis right now, lots of stress, because they are biting more than they can chew. You had 15 million shillings to invest. You thought that was a lot of money. So you ended up buying, you're looking for a plot now in Karen. You even pay a deposit. But you get shocked to learn that that plot in Karen, the 15 million shillings that you have is not even enough to buy the plot itself. So if you had wanted to have a house based on that money that you had, you can be sure that you've lost it. You must look at the budget. The other one are people that are spending based on peer pressure. I mentioned it this area. The fact that you've seen all your neighbors in Dubai, the fact that you've seen on the social media your friends are sending photos from White Sands, the fact that you've seen some of your friends in Dubai or in Zanzibar with their families does not mean that you should do the same with your children. You got to ask yourself, where is my money going to come from? Have I planned for it? If you have not, you would rather stick to your lane. A lot of people are in a competition. Only because your neighbor has bought a brand new car, you feel the pressure to also buy a new car. Please stop spending based on peer pressure. It will cost you at some stage. Some people go to an extent of taking car loan because you want to please the world. You want to please the society. You want to please your children. You want to please everyone that you are doing well. Soon after you realize that you're doing well, you're not able to meet the obligation on your part. And that car is going to be towed. The bank is going to come for that car. Your renter is going to come for that car. And I can tell you for sure, it will cause more pain and pressure to you than the joy that you had when you bought it. It is good to have that balanced, perception. The other one, going into old age and starting a business at that point. The other is that you cannot teach an old dog new tactics. I see lots of people that are getting to retirement age, and that's the stage they want to start a butchery. That's the stage they want to open a kiosk. That's the stage they want to open a hotel. You got to be careful enough of your risk appetite. When you are young, your risk appetite is high. But your risk appetite reduces as you get older. They are inversely proportional. Risk appetite and age are inversely proportional. As one is going up, the other is going down. So as you age, your risk appetite goes down. So if you have not done business before, now that you've been paid your retirement fund of 5 million and you want to buy a matatu, you can be sure of this. And I'll put it in black and white. You've never done matatu business. But only because you've reached a retirement age, you feel it's about time to buy one matatu. The statistics that I have, and maybe I'm misread, 50% of those buying matatus after retirement, in 24 months, they are dead. 50% of those buying matatus after retirement, 50% of those that are buying they are buying matatus with their retirement money. In 24 months, they are dead. The stress is more than you can manage. Every day you wake up, the council people are after your vehicle. Your vehicle is being towed by the council people. The police are on your case. Yesterday you were battling with the city council people. Today you are with the police. Tomorrow you are with the Mungeki. The next day your driver is the problem. The stress level there is unbearable. As you get older, your risk appetite reduces. Please, as you plan about your old age, look at businesses that are conservative. Look at businesses that are not going to expose you to risk. Look at businesses where your energy is majorly not going to be involved. For example, putting money in a money market and a solid money market. It will give you some income which is not so much, but it is consistent and it is secure. You are way better than somebody who takes 5 million and locks it in a matatu. The one in a matatu can make more, but then you are playing with the risk of 200%. The one in the money market, the fund is guaranteed, the fund is secure. You make less income, but you are sure that that money is there even tomorrow. Let me go to the next one. Not investing in social capital. If you really don't want to have running life at old age, can you start investing in friends? Can you start investing in networks that work? Friends that can take care of you and they can give you sensible advice when there's a need. Friends who can take you to the dowry of your son. Friends who can come for the wedding of your daughter. Friends who can come through when they hear that you are unwell. If you don't invest in these social networks, you will have a problem when the time comes. I want to go to some basic statistics that inform the spending habits in Kenya. Did you know that approximately 85% of Kenyans are spending more than they earn? 85%. You know that you're making 200, but you're spending 250. You know that you're making 300, but you're spending 350. You know that you're making $500,000, but you're spending 700. You know that you're earning $1 million, but you're spending 1.2. That's why most of the people are. The moment you find yourself in this kind of environment, you know that you're losing it, and it's just a matter of time for you to think. Just a matter of time for you to think. Can you look at your budget? As I said, spend 50% of your income on needs, spend 25% on wants, but the remaining portion is not for you to spend. It's for you to build a financial cushion. Now, I want to look at this element that I'm talking about, 25% on your wants. What are these wants? Maybe you have a family. Every Sunday after church, you want to have a meal with your family away from home. Maybe at Java, maybe at KFC, whoever that you want to, maybe at Alt Cafe, maybe at Sarova, whoever you want to have that meal. It is part of the want because you could as well have eaten at home. But you choose for the purposes of bonding with your children, for the purposes of bonding with your family, to eat away, so at least they can also have an experience outside home. That's what I want. For you to drive that Gazra, that 4,700cc Rita engine, for you to drive that Porsche, for you to drive that V8 petrol engine, for you to drive that Range Rover, it is a want. Because maybe you live in Westlands and you work in Kilimani. That car that is taking you to Kilimani, you could also have been taken by a Vit. But you choose to go that route of the Gazra because at that particular point, you want convenience, you want comfort, you want security, you want stability. It is part of your wants. You must ensure that you don't overspend on that. You don't overspend on that lifestyle. Holidays. You can't be going on holiday every 3 months. It will eat away your savings. Decide what portion of your income you are willing to direct into building a fund for holidays. Again, when you do that, you got to be careful. You got to give yourself a timeline within which you have to do it. Maybe it's once in a year. But you realize that there are people who are having these holidays every now and then. The people who are having parties after parties. People who cannot live at home over the weekend. They must drive out. They must drive away. They call it is it called what? Road trips. They call this road trips. Go to ask yourself, what am I doing with my money? Am I going beyond 75% threshold? If you're spending more than 75%, you are in this class that I'm talking about of 85% that are living above their means. You must not live in an apartment that is taking 40% of your salary. You're making 200,000 every month, but spending 85,000 shillings on rent. That will not get you to financial stability. That cannot take you to financial stability. You got to be very, very careful. Even as you enjoy that comfort, security, and all that, also other factors have to come in. Is that particular expense taking away money that would have taken care of other important expenses in the future? What is the need to live in a house where you are paying 150,000 shillings rent and then deny yourself the opportunity to put funds together to educate your children in a good university? Which is a better evil? You are spending all the money living in Lavington. And I'm not saying that Lavington is not supposed to be lived by people. What I'm saying, it is what proportion of your income are you willing to spend in a rental apartment, for example? If you're earning 200,000, how can you direct 100,000 shillings into rent? At what stage are you going to be able to put together funds for educating your children when the time comes? At what stage will you start putting funds aside for your retirement? Don't let that one expense take away all the opportunities for other important investments. Then the other one, 90% of people are getting retirement phase without sufficient planning. I said earlier that this is a big problem. Over-reliance. People rely on the government subsidy. And I think during the time of our President Uhuru, the amount that used to be given was 2,000. Can you imagine? You've retired, and the only hope you have in your life is the 2,000 shillings that is given by the government. The village where I come from, I am aware of 2 men that have died in the queue waiting to be paid 2,000 shillings. You are forced to wake up so early in the morning so that you are first in the queue and so that you don't miss out. Unfortunately, at that old age, the person suffers pneumonia. At that old age, Your body does not have high tolerance to cold. So you get to the queue very early, yes, but when you're waiting to be served, you lose it and collapse, and the next minute you are dead. 90% of people don't have income at retirement. They are the problem of the society. They are the problem to their children. They are the problem to their extended family. You got to think about it. And the level of stress this is likely to bring to you and your children. By the way, the stress is not only for the one who didn't plan. It also affects those that are planning, maybe in the name of your children. It also affects your spouse. Maybe your spouse is doing what they need to do with their money, but you're not doing the right things with your money. So what is going to happen is that your bad planning is going to affect those that are planned properly. 98% will not be able to meet their medical obligations. You are unwell, and every so often, you fundraise from the children, you fundraise from the neighbors, you fundraise from the society. Retiring people have got all the time. What they don't have is money. The youthful investors, on the other hand, have got all the time until they run out of that time. I talked about the monster called procrastination. This is a very, very important graph for all of us to understand. This is part of risk management. The red line represents our energy levels. When you are a young person and in your productive phases, you know that your energy level keeps increasing by the day. But that increase will not be forever. You will hit your peak at some point. For some of the people, you could hit your peak at 45, you could hit your peak at 50, you could hit your peak at 55. The others even who hit their peak at 60. Some people may even hit the peak earlier because of changed medical circumstances. For example, somebody that has been diagnosed with cancer, somebody that has got kidney failure, somebody that has got terminal illnesses could easily hit their peak before others. Now, the moment you hit your peak, the next movement is downward. The moment your energy level is going down, it has a direct correlation with productivity. Call this the economic productivity. Now, what happens is that for some of the people, especially those that do savings when they are young, what happens is that when you hit the peak, and you had saved when you're a young person, the savings that you did will give you a good cushion. But if you never saved, when you hit the peak, the next movement is a free fall. You retire now, and within 3 years, you are bankrupt. You retire now, within 24 months, you are bankrupt. You retire now, within 1 year, you have depleted all your savings. If you've done the savings at the right time, when you hit the peak and start coming down, it is a slow process that might take you to the age of 90, that you're not depending on anyone. You can still afford yourself. You can still pay your bills. You can still pay for water. You can still pay for electricity. You can take care of your medical bills, only because you did savings sensibly when you are young. The next element is the income. Income, yes, it has a positive trajectory for some of the people, but not good enough. That's the reason why you hear people say, yes, I got a salary increment, but it was not good enough. I wish I got a little more. But how about the expenses? Expenses are always going up, no matter the situation, no matter the tribe, no matter the circumstances. Whether young or old, your expenses are always going up. Now, a misalignment of expenses and energy level is what causes financial crisis. Your expenses are going up, but the energy level is coming down, the economic productivity is coming down, you're no longer able to meet your obligations. You're borrowing from this person to pay the other. You're borrowing from this bank to pay the other. That is what we call financial crisis. And some people have found themselves in this kind of a situation, which can only be explained by poor financial planning. When you are in financial crisis, the only thing around you is stress. Whether it is family stress, whether it's medical stress, whether it's financial stress, but stress is the only thing that you see around your life. We can manage that. The moment you do what you do, you need to do the moment you do what you need to do with your money at the right time, you'll be able to avoid the stress. In terms of the money journey, you've got to think about 3 stages. The first stage is how to make money. Second is how to grow it. Finally, how to protect it. Let's look at the one of making money. Are you making money from a legitimate source? Because it can also be part of their risks. It can also be part of the stress. There are people who are doing all sorts of, what do you call them? These things that I see the young people doing. The games that they do, out there to be able to make money. You got to think of clearly a legitimate source of income. Mm-hmm. And when you make money, have the right mindset. Be a positive person. Money itself likes people that are positive. Money has a tendency to like people that are enthusiastic. Money does not like people that are pessimists. Money does not like people who are negative. Try to have multiple streams of income. And having multiple streams does not necessarily mean that you be doing many things. No. You have one key source of income, but you got others that are making for you income passively. You are not involved. For example, when you have rental income, when you have dividend that is being paid for by organizations, that is money that you make passively. It's not involving your energy on a day-to-day basis. You will be very, very stressed if you are relying on only one stream, and then at some point you get disrupted. For example, those that are in business, if you have nothing else that can give you a bit of cushion, and now the situation has come when people are not able to do business because of the circumstances out there, what's going to happen? You start getting very stressed. You can no longer meet your obligations because you only rely on the business, and now you've come to a situation where businesses are not being opened. Look at the spending habits. When you look at how you spend your money, that can tell us if you're going to be stressed in the future or you're going to be a happy person in the future. If you just spend on lifestyle, if you just overspend your money, if you just spend without care of your tomorrow, if you spend without care of your emergency fund, you can be sure that that is going to take you down. Let's look at the managing of your money, of growing your money. I've talked about managing debt, and it could be a potential source of stress. If you're not managing your debts will keep growing. But maybe your results are not growing. Maybe your portfolio is not growing fast enough. So the debt are going to eat the savings and investment that you are doing. For you to be able to grow your portfolio, you have to bring your debts down so that you can create room for savings and investment. Finally, on the protection aspect, I talked about succession planning. But beyond that, you also think about the day-to-day risks. What would happen if I die? What would happen if I become disabled? What would happen if I was diagnosed with a terminal illness? What would happen if I became disabled? Those are important questions that you need to ask yourself. You need to manage your risks. And you need to ensure that your family is cognizant of the risks that the family is exposed to. And let them help you managing those risks. I didn't know how to go through this, right? But basically, when you start making your portfolio, the first thing is to accumulate. The other one is to grow and protect the portfolio and finally distributing it. The accumulation aspect, you can do it contractually or non-contractually. You decide that I want to build a fund of 10 million in the next 5 years. The amount I want to be putting aside is 100,000 shillings every month. I want to build a fund for educating my 2 children in the next 5 years, next 10 years. And you already given yourself a target. I want to do a fund of 5 million because the university that I'm taking my children is Strathmore. Give yourself a timeline and give yourself a target. And ensure that you remain very faithful to that target and remain very faithful to that program. So that in the next 5 years, you have enough money that can help you meet the intended agenda. The growth and conservation, wherever you direct your resources, ensure that you direct your resources to an environment where the same appreciates over time. Don't put your resources where they stagnate, where they're not going to appreciate. It is good that you can consult with financial advisors like myself, who will be able to advise you on the various instruments that will actually be able to propel your portfolio upwards. Some people have had a bank balance of 10 million, 15 million, 30 million the next 2 years, that 3 years. If that money is not directed to investment, you can imagine how much you're potentially losing. And finally, I talked about the distribution, which is basically the transfer of your wealth to the next generation. And this is why you talk about the wills, beneficiary nomination, you talk about the trust, you talk about the succession planning. Ensure that you put your house in order, because if you don't do it, it will cause stress to those people who are going to be left behind at some point. What do you need to do to rewrite your narrative? What do you need to do to rewrite your narrative? The first thing is to understand your money personality. The first thing to do is to understand your money personality. There are 4 money personalities. The first is a spender. We've got a dreamer, saver, and an investor. Who's a spender? These are guys that basically spend on lifestyle. They are swiping credit cards wherever they go. Money is just going out of the account. They don't have the control of money that is going out. It's good that you can have a good cash flow management. That cash flow management will help you to create room for emergencies, will help you create room for medium-term goals, will help you to put funds aside for your long-term needs. Dreamer. These are these guys that keep talking about the goals that they have, but they're not taking the first step. The problem with a dreamer is that they have no financial strategy. You keep telling us that you want to take your kids to this type of a school. This is the place you want to buy a plot. This is the place you want to retire when the time comes. This is the place you want to be taking your children for international holiday. But what are you doing with your money today? Are you already putting money aside for such investment agendas? The problem that dreamer is their financial story ate the dream. And it doesn't matter how sweet the dream was, it will remain a dream. A dream will never take you to reality. Let's think about the saver. The saver. These are unfortunately the people who leave chunks of their funds in a savings account. They're not able to analyze the profit that they make out of such funds that are lying in the savings account. The problem with that is that inflation is eating the potential growth. And a year down the line, the only people who seem to be laughing is the bank. You left the money in the bank, 2 million shillings throughout the year, 3 million shillings in the year, and you never did, and it never gave you any return. You just saved it. You got to strategically move your money from a savings account to an investment account. Finally, who is an investor? Investors are marked by especially three characteristics. One, they are very futuristic. This is a guy that is looking at 10 years from now. They're looking at 5 years from now. They're looking at a year from now. They plan. They've got a good strategy. They're very futuristic. The other one is that they are very diversified. They don't invest in one asset class. They've got a multiple of classes where they invest because they know on their journey, they've got multiple needs that they need to meet. You cannot use your pension to pay school fees. You can't use your pension to pay school fees. Some people use all their pension to take care of debt. Some people use all their pension to start a business. And then you're exposed. That's not an investor. And as I talked about the futuristic character of this person, if you have friends around you who are always talking about yesterday and last week and last month, those are not investors. An investor is very futuristic. They look at what is ahead of them rather than what is behind them. The final character about an investor is that they work with their accountability partners. An accountability partner is somebody who understands your financial story. They know the goals you want to meet this year. They know the goals you want to meet next year. They know which schools your children are going to. They know what house you want to build. They know who is your primary financier. They know even your relationship manager. They know your spouse by name. They know your children by name. When you're going through challenges as a family, they understand. They're the people who you best consult when you need structured advice. And for somebody to qualify to be your accountability partner, they need to be a level above you as far as finance is concerned. Those guys that are in your same level are just your friends, they're not your accountability partners. For you to be able to progress on that path, got to have smart goals. I talked about smart goals. The other one, you got to look at the time left, you got to look at your budget, ensure that the portfolio is sufficiently diversified, protect it, and distribute the wealth. I talked about these four characters: the dreamer, the investor, the spender, and the saver. I don't need to go back to that again. But if you find yourself in the spending category, can you review your lifestyle demands? Stop spending on wants. Focus on your needs. Create room for investments and savings. That is ultimately what is going to give you a future cushion. If you find yourself saving, you are a saver, allow an emergency fund of a maximum of 3 to 6 times of your monthly living expenses. Anything beyond that should be directed into an investment so that the portfolio can appreciate over time. If you are a dreamer, the first thing is to stop procrastinating. Stop dreaming. Take action. Stop excuses, because dreamers keep giving excuses. They keep blaming everyone. You lost the opportunity, action, but now you want to blame the country, you want to blame the economy, you want to blame COVID, you want to blame the France, you want to blame your boss. I mean, we have everyone to blame except ourselves. It's good to have a budget, create room for investment. And finally, as an investor, the first thing is to ensure that you invest within your risk appetite. Don't bite more than you can chew. Because as you go up the ladder, you need to maintain the 3 to 6 times threshold of your emergency fund becomes important. And finally, it's good that you can update your succession plan. And investors are always acquiring, they're doing more new options. Ensure that as you're doing these things, you update your will. So today, I want to ask you, who is eating your money? Who is eating your money? Sometimes ask yourself, what is eating your money? And I want to tell you what? Inflation is eating your money. Inflation is taking away the purchasing power of your money. 100,000 shillings kept under the mattress over a period of 20 years, you will progressively lose the purchasing power of that money. Assuming a 10% inflation rate, 5 years down the line, the 100,000 shillings will have a purchasing power of 10 years down the line, 100,000 shillings will have a purchasing power of 38. 15 years down the line, the 100,000 shillings will have a purchasing power of 23. And finally, 20 years down the line, you'll be very surprised. The purchasing power will be sitting at about 14,000. So if you're not directing your liquid resources into an environment where the appreciation rate is above inflation, then you are generally losing against the inflation. And what happens when that happens? What happens when you get yourself in this kind of environment? You start having anxiety. You start worrying. As I said, there's always a connection between your money habits and your state of mind. When you get yourself in a scenario like this, you start getting anxious. You start worrying. Some people become unhappy. Anger goes up. You start becoming very irritable. Some people even withdraw socially. Some people have a decision paralysis. You cannot make decisions. You've lost so much. You've become so unhappy. You lost the opportunity that right now you've actually gotten overwhelmed. Let's think about our youngsters and their spending habits. A young person at the age of maybe 30 years with a salary of about 200,000 and net of tax come to 147. This translates to a daily income of about 4,921. If you decide to buy a phone at this stage and a phone of 189,000 shillings, which in my view is biting more than you can chew, the 189,000 shillings divided by 4,921 income on a daily basis would mean that 8 days of your hard work has been taken away. Now, that alone causes some financial disruption. And if you find yourself in a situation like this, you know you don't have cash in your wallet because you're overspent on one asset. You overspent on one particular lifestyle. What happens there is that you start lacking confidence. If your sons and daughters are at a state where they have spent all their money on such lifestyle demands, the next thing that happens, they start losing confidence. And by the way, loss of confidence affects also the old people. When you don't have the means, when you don't have the money, when you cannot be able to meet your bills, what happens is that your confidence level goes down. Your financial controls also go down. Because at that point, that's why you see people going to Shydocks. You have no cash at the moment. And the only option that is available to you is money from a Shylock. So you lack controls. You end up taking such an obligation, you end up taking such a liability without due consideration of the interest rate that you're going to be charged. A lot of people are unable to cope with their lifestyles in the short term. A lot of people cannot be able to meet their needs. And when people are stressed, there's some characteristics that they display. Some of them start overeating. You just eat carelessly. Every other minute you're just eating as a way of managing the stress. I think something that we need to look at our spending habits because they have a direct impact to potential stress levels in our life. The financial basket will help you build emergency funds, will help you take care of medical obligations, will help you take care of personal accident situations, will help manage life assurance needs, will help manage last expense needs, will help you manage critical illness requirements, will help you manage education for the children, will help you manage your contractual medium-term investment goals, and ultimately will help you manage retirement planning. I've talked about the emergency, and I've shown how it affects our state of mind. When an emergency comes up and you're all over the place borrowing, you might end up borrowing from people who are going to charge you an interest. And because of the pressure to get the cash, you might borrow at a rate that you cannot afford. You might borrow at an interest rate you cannot afford. That is ultimately going to put you in a very awkward position, which could influence a new level of stress. So where do you put your emergency fund? That's why you hear of money markets. They're an ideal, very, very ideal platform where you can invest and be able to build a security that will be able to tackle your emergencies whenever they come. If you don't have an emergency fund, you can be sure that when a problem comes up, you will resort to borrowing from friends. When a problem comes, you resort to trying to dispose of assets that you needed. When a problem comes up, you try taking a loan against land, which might also not sort you out. It's good that you can try to build an emergency fund when you're of good health and good state of mind. If you don't do that, you can be sure there will be a problem. You can be sure there will be stress coming your way. So I'm recommending to everyone here this evening that is listening to me, it is good that you can start focusing on building an emergency fund. I'm always a call away to help you build an emergency fund that come in handy when such requirements come in. I'll talk about the contractual investments very, very shortly. Let me skip that. But let's see about this and the effect to our state of mind. Death of a loved one, and who was the primary support system in the family, affects not just those that are left behind, but even the children. The lifestyle that they had attained can never be maintained. I want to look at the disability cases. Somebody who was the breadwinner for a family is now disabled and on a wheelchair. What does that mean to the rest of the family? Critical illness. When you've been diagnosed with a terminal illness and you have no idea how to pay the bills, what stress level would that cost you? When you have a loved one that has died and you've put up a WhatsApp group for people to fundraise and they're not fundraising, what stress level would emanate from such? These are 5 animals that will teach us different lessons. The first one is a lion. A male mature lion or a female is capable of bringing down a buffalo alone. The amazing level of control by this animal is what we need to pick up. The next animal is the elephant. Amazing memory. We need to have good memory when it comes to pursuance of our goals. Always put your best foot forward. Next animal is a rhino. Talks to us about how to confront our threats. Your threat could be peer pressure, could be spending without a budget, could be procrastination, could be lifestyle demands. Confront this for you to be able to make a financial turnaround. The next is a leopard. A leopard will not ordinarily appear anywhere out there. It knows when to hide and how to hide. But the moment it appears because it has identified a prey. And then from there, it will make very carefully calculated steps towards the prey. It will only pounce when the chances of success are more than 90%. But now the good part of it, when it kills the prey, it will never eat it there. It will pull it to the highest point of the tree where it is safe from the other carnivores. You all need to have a safety net away from your dream busters. Those people that are telling you cannot achieve it. Those people that are saying you cannot invest in this platform. Those people that are telling you that you cannot be able to achieve your goals. You need to stay away from them. Whatever that you put together, let it be in your safety net so that you can resort to accessing from the safety net when an emergency comes or a disruption comes. Finally, buffalo. It talks to us about the importance of diversification. Buffaloes walk together and graze together in numbers. That is how they provide security for each other. But the moment one is isolated by the rest, it will be attacked by the carnivores. You need to have a diversified portfolio that takes care of the various risks that you're exposed to. Retirement planning. I talked about this, and I also talked about the ill preparation for people on retirement matters is causing lots of stress. When you're not prepared for retirement, you tend to be more worried. People that are not prepared for retirement, they have a tendency for higher psychological distress. Do you know when you want to retire? Have you ever thought about it? What's your current relationship with money? Are you a spender? Are you a dreamer? Are you an investor? Or are you just a saver? Have you made provision in case your health went bad? Financial worries and psychological distresses are more pronounced among unmarried and employed people, low-income people, earners, and those that are paying rent. You want to ensure that as you get to the retirement age, you are aware of some of these stresses and you'll be able to manage them. If you are in a state where your marriage is not working well, and especially because of money-related reasons, the tendency for stress is higher. If you're in an environment where you are on a contract and chances are high that your contract is not going to be renewed, the stress level is high. You need to start building cushion in case of such disruptions. If you're in an environment where you're not earning enough, but your goals and needs are higher, chances of higher stresses are there. The only way can you bite what you can chew. If you're paying rent, you got to be reasonable to be in an environment where you can afford the rent. Don't be taking loans to pay rent. Because if you do that, you can be sure of the next thing. Stress that is going to be associated with debts. Stress that is going to be associated with lack of savings. Stress that is going to be associated with poor retirement planning. Stress that is going to be escalated by lifestyle expenses. Stress that is going to come from medical bills. stress that is going to be coming from job losses. I know what? That also affects your attitude. That also affects your attitude. The positivity, the enthusiasm will not be there. You'll be a negative person, a pessimist. Some unfortunate facts as I come to the end of my presentation. And you got to ask yourself, what would be the effect of each of these to your medical wellness? The first one, we look at retirement at the age of 60, and those that are retiring, 50% of them will sink into debts, poverty, and depression because they never saved properly. 55% will become idlers after retirement. They have nothing structured to do after they retire. 65% of retirees will deplete their retirement savings while they're still in good health. They start depending on others. Can you imagine? You have to explain to your children why they have to support you. You have to explain to their society. You have to explain to the next the extended family. 65% of the retirees are asset rich but cash poor. That again carries a lot of stress. You got lots of land, but you're not able to dispose to be able to meet some of the obligations that are coming your way. Some of the retirees are pursuing physical fitness at the expense of financial. You need to create an alignment of these two so that you are balanced in your equation. If you overdo one at the expense of the other, that again will represent stress. Remember always that retirement is not about age. You could also be forced to retire due to medical circumstances. The best definition of retirement is the time you're going to give your money space to work for you. So what are you presently doing with your money? If you delay in taking an investment decision, it will cause stress. A lot of people, you see them trying to look for pyramid schemes to double their money. Only because you lost the opportunity, now you have very few years to retirement, you are looking for ways of doubling your money. There's no such a mechanism of doubling your money without risk. When you go into such schemes, you can be assured that you are exposing your funds to 200% risk. Remember, it is not about how much you're going to be investing, but about when you start investing. Procrastination is real, it's a monster. It has taken away people's dreams. Start your investment journey early. If you don't do it, realize that at the 9th hour, it's going to be more costly, it's going to be expensive, it's going to expose you to very high level of risk. Finally, these are financial facts. Obstacles and excuses are what we see when we take our eyes off the financial goals. And that will also cause stress. You're not going to dream yourself to reality. You've got to take action. Don't let age change you. Change the way you are aging. Some people are aging way more than they ought to be because of some of the circumstances they have found themselves. And some of these circumstances are those that were, that culminate or are characterized by poor financial planning. Nothing great is going to be achieved suddenly. Rome was never built in a day. You take time, you need focus and discipline to be able to achieve your financial agenda. It's always good for you to take the small steps that will help you conquer the bad habit. And always ask yourself one simple question: if I don't take action now, what is it going to ultimately cost me? It will cost you stress. You end up borrowing. You end up getting a financial shakeup. There's no future in the past. Focus on what is ahead of you. Stop worrying about what happened yesterday. Try to put your best foot forward for the sake of your tomorrow. When it comes to investment, the first step is always the revolutionary step. And this is normally what separates the achievers from the dreamers. Remember the success formula that I preach. It's good to think big, start small, but start now. Ladies and gentlemen, in our own simple and complex ways, we are able to see the relationship between our money management and our financial success, as well as medical settlement. How are you able to reduce risks? How are you able to reduce stress? Remember that if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. Do the right things at the right time. If you totally need advice on financial matters that will then help you reduce or control the potential stress in the future, you need to have a sitting with me. Anyone that is listening to me that is on LinkedIn, you could easily connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for Alfred Matthew, and you'll be able to have access to my free posts. From there, your life will actually be transformed. If you want to reach out to me on mobile, my mobile number is there, 0722-310-584. If you should feel that you want to drop me a line on email, alfred.mazu@hisafricainsurance.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a big relationship between money matters and stress. If you manage your money matters well, chances are more than 80%, that you'll also be able to control the potential stress levels. If this gospel is relevant to you, please take action. And even if you don't, no time is waiting for anyone. Tomorrow we are
Thank
going to
you,
be a week
Alfred.
older. Next week you are going to be a week older. Next month you are going to be a month older. And soon we're going to be retiring. What part of statistics are you going to form? Are you going to be part of the statistics of the people that I talked about who are depending on medical fundraising to meet some of the obligations? I pray that you will not. If you can take action now, it is never too late. My conversation with you will be transformational. It will elicit a revolution in your life. It will elicit a new level of discipline. It will make you to be happy about the goals that you're achieving and the ones that you are planning for. It will make you very cognizant of the things you need not put your money in. It will also give you high level of skills when you are managing your budgets. It will give you insights of what instruments represent what risk level. And you'll be financially polished, you'll be a better person, and I believe you'll be able to participate better in serving God, serving your family, and serving this country. I want to say a big thank you to all of you. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It is my prayer that you're going to reach out if you have the need to be guided. It's my prayer that you're going to reach out if you have a need to assess if you're on the right path. It is my prayer that you're going to reach out if you want to find out if what you're doing with your money is right. If you want to find out if you're going to build sufficient for retirement. You want to assess if what you're doing is going to generate what you call suitable income replacement ratio. I want to leave it at that point, and may God bless you. I'm taking it back to you, Varin, so that you can wind the session. Asanteni sana, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Alfred. Even the time is up. So I think after the feedbacks, we'll know if we can have another session to talk more about what we are talking about today. And for today, thank you. I have nothing more to add. It has been a good session. Thank you and
Thank you
see you
so much,
soon.
Varin, and everyone else. And I wish you a lovely evening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the Gen Zs, and we look forward to seeing you in the marketplace tomorrow.
Thank you and see you. Have a
Bye-bye.
good one.